Awesome, awesome. It is 10 a.m. Pacific. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Brandy. I'm the Senior Account Executive here over at Synchro with the sales team. Really excited to introduce you all today to both Andy and Bill. They're going to be joining us. You'll get to hear from them. And some of you guys are probably wondering, what on earth is a fireside chat and why am I here? So, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're going to cover today, we're going to start by discussing how wonderful this year has been, 2021. We're going to take a look back at some of those key features that we did release this year. And then we're going to get a sneak peek into 2022. We will definitely save some time to go through questions as we go through today. So if you do have any questions while we're chatting, feel free to drop those in the Q&A so that we can grab those whenever we wrap up with the 2021 and 2022 stuff. But let's just kind of start out. Let's chat about these two wonderful people that are here with me today. So the first person I'm going to introduce you guys today is Bill. This is our VP of product here at Syncro, and we are so excited to have you with us today, Bill.
Thanks. First of all, great to meet you all. I hope I get to talk to you all more over time. My name is Bill Maracek. My background, the most recent that's pertinent here, as part of CA Technologies, I was director of product for our ITSM, service management, help desk, asset management suite of products. I also was VP of Common Services in the identity and data space. Most recently, I was head of product at JumpCloud, which is an online directory competing with Active Directory and Okta and those types of products. We also guarded endpoints and had an agent and did a lot of similar things to an RMM tool. And now I am VP of product here at Synchro. I've been here since September. So this is my first webinar. I haven't been here that long. We'll talk about towards the end sort of philosophies that we're bringing to the Synchro product group for how we approach software development and other topics that I'm sure will be of interest to you. I've been doing this a long time. I've been building software for well over 15 years. I've done on-premise, mainframe, and most recently, like almost a decade of SaaS. So mostly SaaS. Like I said, I have an identity background, so I did some identity as a service work, and I've also done a handful of data products as well.
Awesome. Next person I'm going to introduce you guys to today, you probably already know Andy, but this is our senior product manager and that smooth as butter voice that you hear on a lot of those Synchro videos. I had to throw that in for you, Andy.
Thank you, Brandy. That one gets me every time. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Andy Cormier. I'm the senior product manager here at Syncro. I kind of have an unusual background in the space. I'm actually a consultant by trade. Started up a consultancy maybe 10 or 11 years ago, mainly focused on technology aspects for hardware and software. Worked with some of the largest hardware and software manufacturers in the world through this past decade or so, about 1,400 companies in total. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was approached by an RMM and PSA vendor who was looking to make some major moves in the space. And they said, hey, we know who you are, we know what you do. Are you looking to, do you know anything about MSPs and RMMs and PSAs? And I said, I have no idea what any of those acronyms mean. Long story short, we wound up signing that deal, and I quickly regretted it. I didn't understand you all MSPs as a customer. I didn't understand what it was like, your day-to-day. They opened up their database to me, said, go ahead and contact everybody and anybody you want, learn anything you want. That made me more frustrated. The more I spoke to you folks, I struggled to understand the variance between one business and the next. You'd ask 10 MSPs the same thing, I'd get 10 different, often diametrically opposed answers. And for the first time in my career, I felt like I actually might fail on behalf of a customer. So I said, look, there's a lot of money in this space. I'd love to break into this space from a consulting perspective. The only way I can think to do that is by opening up my own MSP. So I did that kind of as a 6-month training process for myself to really learn what it was like to be in your shoes. And what started as a 6-month learning project ultimately spun into an ultra profitable 12-person MSP that, of course, I started from the ground up. I was the first tech, and not being a tech by trade, that was a little challenging at first, to say the least. Grew to about $2.5 million of labor revenue annually. I call out labor revenue specifically just because total revenue is typically a bit of a red herring in the space due to hardware sales. Went on to consult for about 500 MSPs directly, and I'm not talking about I'm going to help you, change your processes and onboard onto this platform. It was, I'm going to audit your books. I'm going to blow up your sales processes and kind of turn you into a selling machine, which is what we always specialized in. And then we use this to expand into other consulting areas for other MSP-centric products. A lot of obviously RMM, PSA, but things like CRM, quoting, documentation, appointment scheduling, all that kind of stuff. And about 2 years ago, I decided that I was tired of flying all over the world, dealing with different companies. 100-hour weeks had really kind of taken its toll. Decided to sell everything off and ride into the sunset, so to speak. And Syncro, who was one of my consulting clients at the time, approached me and said, "Hey, do you have any interest in coming here full time?" And I said, it was weird. I never had a job before in my entire life. This is the first job I ever had. And I said, you know what, that sounds interesting. I get to stay in a space I love. I now have a deep rooted respect for everything that MSPs have to deal with and go through, much more so than I did prior. Yeah, and I've been here full time for about a year, trying to take all that experience that I have and build it into the features and functions that we roll out for all you folks.
Awesome. Thank you. Really excited to have you both as part of the team here at Syncro, and I know our users are as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition into talking about 4 of the largest features that we released this year. The first one we're going to talk about, we started on in 2020, and now we added more features to this. So the first one we're going to chat about is the reporting. So Andy, if you want to talk to us about what we did with reporting in 2021.
Yeah, so 2021 was kind of the year of the giant features. 2020 was all about landing a bunch of small to mid-sized things, and we really took a look at what we wanted to do in 2021, and we kept coming back to 4 core features, and we said, you know what, let's just build them all, because these are things that people want. They're filling core holes for us, and they're really expanding functionality that MSPs need. So reporting was the first place we wanted to tackle. And instead of rolling out 50 million individual reports, at the end of 2020, we built an executive summary report builder. We started there because that's the bulk of the functionality that most folks are going to use every month, sending something off to their customers. And in 2021, we really beefed up that functionality. So there's now over 35 customizable blocks. The entire report is completely modular. And we wanted to make this completely different than what you see in other platforms that typically have one static page of static stuff. That's great if you're a super small MSP and everybody's the same, but as you all know, every one of your customers is unique in some way, particularly your VIPs, and you need to give them that customizable level of data. And that's exactly what we did. So you've got a bunch of different kinds of blocks. You've got list blocks, so you can detail any subset of assets or tickets or contacts. You've got visual blocks, which are like graphs and charts. Then you've got text blocks, which is just hard-coded numbers of, I checked 500 alerts this month. We ticked, 250 of them, et cetera, et cetera. You can order this however you like on the page. It's super customizable to the point you can even add little blocks of text, explainer text detailing what a specific section means for any specific customer. You can even customize down to the page breaks on the PDF report. It's crazy. And of course, we built this into a templated system so that you can take these templates and then apply them to any subset of customers. So you may have 10 different styles of executive summary reports templated out, and you can just say, these 10 customers every month, I'm going to send them this template, and you don't need to do anything beyond that. It will configure all the data specifically for them. And then we said, you know what, this was such a hit for us in 2021 that we actually built this into what we're calling the internal report builder. And it's effectively the same technology behind the report, except it's scoped for internal use exclusively. So you could still do it to one customer if you wanted, but more than likely you're going to want to scope it to a subset of your customers trying to determine profitability or whatever you're looking at within the scope of that specific report. And you could, of course, scope it to your entire customer base across the board. Same thing, you can have as many templates as you want detailing different things. You can send it out on a schedule to yourself or your techs as need be, or just spin it up as a one-off whenever you need be. So we hit reporting in a major way, and this has been one of the most well-received features that I think we've ever done in the history of Syncro. So we're super proud of this one in particular.
I'm super proud of it too. I know, especially on the sales team, we love to be able to show our users how they can show their value to their customers. So really appreciate that. The next one we're going to talk about, I just am so excited about, although I am excited about every feature we release. I know they always get me bugging on, when are we going to get this? When are we going to get that? So let's talk about Splashtop.
Yeah, so this is another big thing we wanted to tackle for 2021, completely replacing our native remote access tool with Splashtop. This, of course, joins our existing suite of background tools. I won't read them all to you, but you can see from the list, we have a pretty hefty suite of tools. You're not likely to find something here that you can't use on a daily basis, or it's going to be missing from our suite. And we rounded that out with a native integration to Splashtop. And what I mean by a native integration is that there's no account to spin up, there's no payment to worry about, there's nothing to configure specifically. You just check a box on your asset policy whether or not you want to deploy Splashtop, and if it is deployed, you get one-click remote access to all of your machines. It's that simple. We also have a BYO integration, bring your own, for Screen Connect, for TeamViewer, and if you want to bring your own instance of Splashtop for some reason, you can do that. It's just an additional drop-down, and you can use them in tandem if you like. Optionally, we added the ability for you to enable remote access for your end users, which is super cool. Now, where everything Splashtop related is free for your techs, this does incur an additional charge. It's $5 per contact that wants to access their machines remotely, not per asset, per contact. So if I've got a contact with 5 assets assigned to them, they can log into the customer portal for that same $5. They'd be able to access all 5. If they're scoped to 1 asset, they'll be able to see 1. If you've got co-managed IT scenarios, or you've got a IT director or somebody on staff that needs access to all of the machines, you can also change a portal permission so they'll get access to all of them for that same $5. So super cool. Again, everything's super easy, one-click access. Turn it on with the click of a button. And then finally, you'll see me get all animated and giddy because I get to talk about money. That's like my favorite thing. So our dynamic recurring billing system, we like to build everything humanly possible into it because it's so powerful. It saves you so much time. And we did the same thing here. So by dynamic, I mean, when this recurring invoice fires, it's going to go off and count any number of things. It can count how many assets you have for a particular customer, assets meeting certain criteria in a saved asset search filter, meeting custom field criteria. You can do the same thing with contacts or contacts with custom fields. We've got Synchro backups. You can go in and you can check for storage allotments, and you could do metered billing. For AV, we've got an integration with PAX 8 where you can bring in your Office 365 licenses, and all of that gets counted dynamically when this recurring invoice fires. So the days of saying, oh crap, I just realized I had 6 Office 365 licenses I added for this customer 6 months ago, I haven't been billing for them. Those days are completely over with this system. And best of all, we built our Splashtop contact counter into here. So if you've got 10 contacts for a particular customer and you're billing them $10 a piece for remote access, they'll get billed $100 this month. If they increase their contact count to 15 next month, they'll just get billed $150, 15 times 10. All of that happens automatically. So it's literally a set it once and forget it, unless you need to go change your pricing. It's super powerful. It's super simple to roll out.
Awesome. Thank you. Moving on to our third feature we're going to chat about today, and our largest feature, I think, that we've ever released with Synchro, policy inheritance.
Yeah, so this one's by far my favorite. This is the largest feature release in Synchro's history. We've been hard at work on this all year. Just rolled out to folks last week. So if you spin up a trial, it will be there as of today. And we basically had a bit of an unusual way that we handled policies. It was a direct one-to-one relationship between the policy and an individual asset. We completely blew that up and turned it into a visual-based folder structure. So every customer is going to have like a top-level folder. And below that, you can create as complex of a structure as you like. So if you've got a customer with 10 sites, as an example, you can have 10 subfolders underneath your primary customer folder detailing every single site. Every folder, including the top level folder, can have its own policy assigned to it. Any asset within any folder will have those policy settings applied. And no matter how complex this structure goes or how many subfolders you go deep, all of those policies are aggregated together and they cascade down to the asset level. And at the asset level, you can even set a policy at that level as well. So if you've got a one-off where you need it to do something specific on an asset that you don't need anywhere else, you need to do an override, that's all fully supported as well. We designed this feature very specifically so it would work within any sized MSP. So it doesn't matter if you're small, it's a feature you could easily grow into it. And it doesn't matter if you're extremely large, it's a feature you'll never grow out of. And again, my favorite part of it is that we blew it up and added it into our dynamic recurring billing system. And this has already become the most popular way to bill for an MSP to their clients. Whoops, sorry, I lost the page there. I'm going to bring it up over here. So basically, you can go into any folder level and put that as a line item on your recurring invoice. So if you've got a folder for workstations as an example, you can say, cool, I want to count every single asset here, and I'm going to go ahead and bill $100 for those. So if you've got 10, you're billing $1,000. You could add a second line item and say, cool, anything that's in the servers folder, I'm going to bill $200 for, and it's going to automatically calculate that. You can make, and if you want to count AV licenses and you've got that in a specific folder, you can just build different rates for that. The bottom line is that all of this is dynamically counted. So as you're dragging and dropping assets from point A to point B, it will automatically be reflected on these recurring invoices. Super cool feature, super powerful, and it's really changing the game for our MSPs, this feature specifically.
We've gotten awesome feedback on that one. So really, really like that one. I gave you a sneak peek on accident for the next one, but the last large feature we're going to chat about today is going to be the Mac agent.
Yeah, this is one we've been hard at work on too. It's currently in open beta, so if anybody spins up a trial today or they're an active Synchro customer, you can go ahead and start deploying this now. We're expecting our GA release to come by the end of the year. Realistically, that might be a week before, a week after, but it's right around that time frame. And it's going to do everything you'd expect it to do. It's going to have your monitoring and alerting. It's going to have scripting, and I included script variables here because this isn't your typical script variables like a runtime variable where you key in some value manually when you run the script. Of course, we do support that, but we take that to another level with something called platform variables. That lets you take, sorry, I've got like a crazy storm going on here. It sounds like the house is going to come down. You can take any value from your customer data, from your asset data, even from internal data within your own account, and add that into the script and have your script take action based on that data. We had one customer that did the coolest thing I've ever seen. They built into all their scripts a check against a custom field, and they were having constant issues with customers being late to pay. So they started disabling scripting based on that. Instead of having to go in and say, I need to delete their scripts temporarily and all this kind of rigmarole to deal with the sheer amount of work that's involved in there, they just added a custom field that said they're late to pay or they're current on their payments, brought it into the script, and had their script just log to the script output that, hey, this customer is late to pay, I'm not doing anything here. And it skipped all the logic. We love that so much that we actually built that into Synchro as a native feature. And we hear stories like this all the time. People have created the coolest things with our script variable mechanic. And in addition to that, we have what we call our script module commands. This has been in our PowerShell scripting forever. And now we're adding it to our Mac agent as well. And that basically is API calls that can interact with our system from a script, but it's done through a wrapper. And not to get very technical, but it's just one-liners you add to your script, and you don't have to know anything about the mechanics of how it works behind the scenes. So to give you an example of this power, you can throw custom RMM alerts, you can throw notifications, you can have it open tickets. You could even do a maintenance script, say once a week, have this script count the time that it took to run it. So say it's 30 minutes. You can then have it open a ticket, dump all of those contents into the body of the ticket, add 30 minutes of billable time to the ticket, and then close the ticket all through a single script. So you can literally wake up tomorrow and say, wow, I did 10 hours of work across 20 assets. It's all sitting here waiting to be invoiced, and it all happened while you slept. Very, very cool and powerful functionality. And then the last one that's in italics there, this is the only thing that is not there yet, will be added over the next week or two, is Splashtop Support. It'll work largely the same way. Sorry, I spelled that wrong, my fault. It'll work largely the same way that Windows does in terms of one-click access, deploying it with a single click. And that'll be here in another week or two. If you spin up a trial, you won't see it, but it is coming.
You heard it right there. For everyone who asks us in open office hours, right? We'll just say, watch the video. Andy spilled the beans. Awesome. Wow, what a year. 2021 was awesome. We're really excited about what's to come. I'm actually going to hand it over to Bill now to talk about the future.
Yeah, great, thanks. So first off, be gentle. I've been here just over 90 days, but what I can say is you're going to get a lot of what you're asking for in terms of a little bit more transparency and visibility into like where we're headed over time. So today I'm going to start us on that journey with some little snippets and nuggets, some philosophies that'll wrap that to help you kind of understand what we're doing. First, we're very focused as a product team. We got down to our principles, right? And we're committed to helping MSPs start, run, and grow your business, right? Those are 3 different activities, and different size MSPs have slightly different needs, and we're going to try to find the balance. There's always going to be a balance in everything we do. So like Andy said earlier, further back in Synchro's history, there was a lot of little things coming out. Then we had a year where we did a bunch of big things. Honestly, we need to find a better balance in 2022. So a balance between some larger features that are necessary, and I'll talk about one on the next slide, so stay tuned. We'll continue to have some smaller features come in. And then we also need to continue to focus on the quality and support of the platform itself. So Syncro is growing, and we have thousands of customers, and that means maintenance on the back end. It means making sure we have an eye on maintainability of any feature we build. And we want to make sure that everything we do reaches a higher quality bar than, and I'm going to build trust with you all by being very straightforward. You know, our quality bar is not where we want it to be right now. And we know we have more defect escapes than we want. And we've been working very hard to close those gaps. And we've made a ton of progress that we're very proud of actually this quarter. We've closed a tremendous amount of defects and cases in Q4 while still shipping policy inheritance. And the way that we did that was by prioritizing those as the only 2 things we were doing, right? Make sure policy inheritance comes out at a high quality bar, and make sure that we're addressing our quality issues and kind of not trying to do too many things, which was something we were doing. And you're going to see that reflected in the future in our roadmaps, where you'll see us focusing on fewer things to make sure that they get done, and they get done well. And then everything that we do, we want to do in partnership with you, our customers. We want to make sure that we're meeting your needs, that we're listening to you. We need to also build empathy both ways. We have thousands of customers. We may not always build the thing that you want or do it in the time frame you want, but I always want you to feel heard, and I always want you to understand the trade-off decisions we're making and the why. Because I think that will help explain, and 90% of the time, you'll probably even agree with what decisions we're making, even if it's a little painful for you, but that only happens if we're partnering. We're committed to your success. That's part of the start, run, and grow part. We're committed to you being successful. You being successful means we are successful. What that means is we will still have a community, but as Andy is very active in that community, we stood up our own, and we're trying to kind of move people over. Now, here are the whys behind that. We can build a better FAQ that's tied into our actual support tooling. If we control the experience, it's not in a walled garden inside of Facebook. We can do a lot more dynamic things with surveys and things, both in product with a tool called Pendo we use, but also through that new community. We have been automating idea collection out of that new community that we host. So if you submit an idea, it goes straight into a tool that product can use. We categorize that idea, we put it in against all the other ideas. We know which customer submitted it, and then we can contact you if we want to follow up and ask more questions. So there's a lot of advantages to you and to us to doing it that way. We know that change is hard, and we know for every person that's really happy to get out of Facebook, there are people that are like, I've been here for years, I'd like to stay here. We're really cognizant of that. But the net I want you to take away is we're still listening, and we still care. And we're going to start to talk with you even more on the phone. And if you heard, we have a new CEO, she wants to engage with you as well. I'm here. You have lots of people who want to talk to you and listen and understand what your pain is. Next slide, Brandy. So the last thing that I'll do before we'll open up to lots of questions, go ahead. Yeah, there you go. When will we have an actual roadmap? Well, not yet. We're still working through all of the things. I know we signaled to you in the past that we're hiring a lot of engineers. We have hired some engineers. They have ramped. What that does, though, is it makes us not as predictable as we'd like in terms of knowing exactly how much work we can get done. And we're doing some research, and I'll start to answer some of the questions in here as I'll weave these in. We've also introduced a higher quality bar. We're also going to introduce a couple new functions. So we are hiring our very first ever Synchro UI UX dedicated person to help us with the design of the application. So I'm answering one of the very first questions in chat right now, but I wanted to signal that it's important to us. I do not have a timeline except to say that rec's been open 6 weeks. We're towards finals, interviews with a couple different candidates. Once that person is here, we are also dedicating some of our engineering hiring to a very small front-end focused team. There will be a small dedicated group, fingers on keyboards, addressing the issue of making sure the UI is a little bit easier to use, easier to find, like Andy going over all the power of our features, making it easier to find those things, know how to use those things. It's a very high priority for us. We're hiring against it. You can see the open rec today. And I plan to hire more next year. The next big thing, I'm going to answer somebody's question. So the most requested feature on our list, the one I can tell you today exclusively, is OS patching. That is the next thing we are going to get started on. I also have a new director of product, Dale Dawson, who came with me. He has built this before. I can't tell you exactly the scope, but we're really, really close on being very clear what scope we want to do. And we're evaluating the sizing with engineering right now and making sure we have the right scope size combination. We're listening. It's the #1 thing the community has asked for. It doesn't matter what size MSP you are, this will help you. So that is definitely the very next thing you're going to see from us that is on the big feature side. And then we have a whole spreadsheet of smaller things we call delighters or pebbles, and we'll start to talk about those too. One thing I want to get into a habit of is having a quarterly kind of roadmap. Here's where we're headed webinar every single quarter. I don't know if next quarter I'll have an actual roadmap, but we're going to strive to get there. At the very least, we will continue to engage with you and be transparent about what we did and what we're planning to do for the next quarter. I also have spun up a function for product marketing. And one of the very first things I'll signal there is we're going to get into a newsletter so we can summarize these things. You don't have to join a webinar if you don't want. Different people like to engage in content in different ways. We'll continue to do in-product notifications for when things come out. But this will just be a nice digest of what did we ship, what kind of surveys are we doing, what are the things like webinars, office hours that are coming up that you might be interested in, and having a dedicated product marketing person to do that rather than spamming you with emails constantly. We'll have different mechanisms to give you updates on different cadences that are easier for you to digest. So I deliberately kept this light, and we have lots of questions coming through. You can ask me anything, and I will try to answer to the best of my ability. Andy's here to answer all the actual product questions because he can go super deep. I'm going to hand it back to you, Brandy, and let's start to answer questions and hear from our community.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Really exciting year ahead. I know I'm sure looking forward to it. And then Frank, it looks like you asked a question about patching. So there you go. Bill just gave it to you. You heard it here first. So thank you for that. I don't think there's anything else we need to address with Ron's question about redesigning the UI. I think Bill addressed that. We don't have an ETA on that one at the time. I also wanted to just take this question really quickly from Frank about, can you generate full year-end reports, not just 3 months back? So you can. There are certain blocks, especially on that report that Andy was chatting about, in both the internal report builder and the executive summary report builder, that you can specify a certain amount of time. So whether that's 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, there is a 12-month option as well. Just want to make sure that you have that. And then we can go ahead and take this one from Dawn. So when are you planning on implementing security that allows us to restrict technicians to a group of customers rather than one or all?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. That's something that we're going to be I can't guarantee it's coming in 2022, but it's something we're going to take a serious look at. And It's basically exactly what you said, scoping a subset of technicians to a subset of your customers. And I will add that that goes well beyond the need at the technician level. When MSPs are bringing on sales folks, quite often they're going to be segmented to a region or a subset of your customer base, particularly if it's a new salesperson or a new tech. Oftentimes you're going to want to segment out your VIPs to avoid the possibility of poaching and things of that nature. So we definitely understand that need. It's definitely something we're going to be looking at in 2022.
Yeah, and I'll just add that this is a problem I solved before, but there's a lot of different ways we can approach it, and it is not a small or easy one, right? So if you're doing it from the lens of you have an IDP in the background that we can leverage and do it by attribute, it's a totally different ballgame than we're trying to build from scratch some kind of rules engine or something without the benefit of a directory or a pseudo directory like Gmail. So when we spin up the research, we'll definitely, this is the advantage of you attending the webinar. We'll jot down your name, we'll give you a ring, and we'll ask you kind of like what you're thinking, what your problems are, because there's thin ways to solve that, there's more robust ways to solve that, and there's different technical implementation ways to solve that. So it's not straightforward.
Awesome, thank you. Don has a question in here. Need the ability to assign remote access to a computer within or with Splashtop to more than one contact in a customer. Currently we cannot. I just wanted to address this one really quickly. As you guys have requested some features in here, we're definitely logging those. I do want to touch on this one, Don, though, because what you will have the option to doing is if you're giving someone end user remote access to their own devices, you'll either be able to specify their own or all devices within that organization. So if you do have someone that needs access to every device, for example, in that organization, that is possible, but picking and choosing is not right now. So we'll most definitely log that one for you. Steve, we may need a little bit more on this one. So with the Mac agent, will Bitdefender be integrated like it is with the Windows client? You can use Bitdefender on a Mac agent today. I'm not sure if there's anything else to add to that. Andy, if you know, or if Steve, you want to give us a little bit more on what you're wanting to do with the integration, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, it should be relatively on par with what you see in Windows. I think the only caveat there is there's some additional stuff that we do, kind of fancy stuff on the back end to handle Apple Silicon M1 chips. I think they're putting the finishing touches on that, but when this goes GA in a couple of weeks, that will be included as well.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for the follow-ups on those. We have another question in here as well. Bill, I'll let you take this one, but in terms of when we can plan to see Watchman integrated into Synchro.
Well, first, if you saw the Watchman press release or any of our notes, the team has been on board for a short time, and they have been helping us with the Mac agent release. That some of the benefit of that was not just Watchman itself, but a team of people who truly understand Mac and have some familiarity with the underlying technologies. In terms of actual integration, it's being actively explored right now. Like I said, it was actually, there was some work that had been started. It was one of those things we had to kind of pause so we could make sure that policy adherence gets out, so that we can make sure that we were addressing some quality issues and a couple small things were getting done. We're going to pick it back up in Q1, and we should be able to tell you what it is and what the time frame is sometime by late January.
Awesome, thank you.
One last thing, I do want to make sure that people understand it will be supported as a separate product for the foreseeable future. There's just going to be advantages to having it integrated, and we'll come up with pricing and packaging advantages as well for customers of both. Those will also be part of that, figuring it out in January.
Yeah, if you like and use Watchman today, that's exactly what you're going to get going forward as well. That's nothing there is changing.
Yes. Awesome. Don, will you be beefing up the support team?
Yes, in fact, pretty much for the past, we've been growing by leaps and bounds. Like 2020, we doubled in size. 2021, we doubled in size. We have every intention of doubling in size again for 2022. Just the value we provide has been attracting MSPs in droves. And we have had open positions for support and engineers pretty much indefinitely for the past year. I don't see that changing. We're hiring them as fast as we can get them. We're hiring developers as fast as we can get them on to support that growth. So yes, we are absolutely continuing to beef that up, and also beef it up in ways where we can start to extend support into what would traditionally be off hours. I understand how important that is as well.
So let me answer that a little from a different angle, and I'm actually going to cheat and answer two questions. So support, there's lots of ways that you can improve a support experience, up to and including don't ship bugs, right? So if we do our jobs and the quality bar for the product goes up, customers will experience less defects and we'll have less cases, and by default, the existing team size will be able to do more. That's one part of the answer, right? That is not the only part. As Andy said, staffing them up as well is important. You're asking if we might do 24/7 support. There currently is no plan to go that far. We are still, while we've been growing a ton and we have thousands of customers, we're still a relatively small business. So we'll do what makes sense. And then to answer things like Aaron's question on, he had a specific call out about, reachable assets, and we have a bunch of related defects around assets reporting they're offline when they're not, and we've actually put out a handful of fixes that don't ever completely fix the problem. So part of that focus on quality is we are doing a root cause analysis right now. So the team is spending some actual real-time running what's called a spike, which is an investigative engineering time to try to understand what the root cause is. So while we fix a bug, we kind of call it whack-a-mole. Like, we fix a bug, if you don't fix what's causing the bug underneath it in the base code, some different version of that bug comes back. The one you brought up, Aaron, is one of those that's been very difficult for us to get to the root cause and completely stop all manifestations of issues around it. But rest assured, it's in the top 3 of the things we're focused on right now, is figuring it out. But it's not going to be as simple as fixing the one defect you call out. We've got to find the root cause on that one. And that'll help support too, because there's tons of cases that come in from different manifestations of what is really probably one root cause.
Great. So the next one we're going to go to is from Dawn. So is it possible to have an ITTT, did I say enough T's, approach to RMM? Meaning, if system triggers based on low disk space, a script could be run before generating an alert, and then check again for low disk space. And only if the low disk space triggers a second time after running the script does the alert get generated. This would eliminate a tremendous amount of alerts that MSPs must touch.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, sorry, I had to read that one twice. I think you're saying like an if this, then that approach. And you can do that largely today. It may not be in the same way exactly that you're talking about, but we have a system which is kind of unique in the space called automated remediation. And traditionally in an MSP platform, an RMM platform, you would say on your policy, I'm going to monitor for X, and if X is tripped, do Y. Well, we broke that off of policies because it's really usually more unique than that. You don't want the same triage happening for all of your customers, especially if you have a good mix of hourly customers and contract customers. You want to handle those things differently. So we feed all of our RMM alerts into this automated remediation system, and it basically is an if this, then that. You can set a bunch of conditions, and then you can set a bunch of actions if those conditions are met. And it depends on what you're trying to do. In the specific example you said, you can have it do nothing if an alert comes in. Like, you can have it write to a custom asset field as an example, as one of your actions, and say, this happened once in the last hour. And you can say, in the second script it fires off, hey, check again. And if it happened twice in this amount of time, go ahead and throw the RMM alert. Otherwise, you can have it automatically close the RMM alert. So you can track that this fired without having to take any action on it, because it's not going to be sitting in your list of open tasks to go off and triage. So you can pretty much do that today.
Before we move on, I want to ask Aaron, your follow-up, are you just indicating you've had no reply on a support case, so you had no idea that we actually were investigating and this wasn't just languishing in a black hole? Is that kind of what you're signaling with your comment there, sir? Correct. Yeah, no, I don't need your ticket IDs. I've got your name, and that's something that we can work with support to fix. Like, I don't think we've done a good job of, in the product and engineering organization, we've been triaging way more aggressively recently. I see charts every single week. That's spun up only 2-ish months ago of saying, hey, no, we're not going to fix this, and why, or we will fix this, but it's not being fixed right now, and why. And in this case, the why is it's just a harder problem to solve and going to take more effort. I'll take that noted, Aaron, and I'll work with support to make sure that we're having more of a heartbeat feedback loop on some of these issues. Thank you for raising that.
And thank you for the nice words too, Aaron. Aaron's like always at everything and has great things to say. So thank you for that. We'll look into it for sure. I also wanted to take a minute just to address some really nice comments that have come in from other team members that aren't with us here today with Synchro. So I passed on the nice words to them, and we do appreciate it. We think we have a pretty solid, awesome team here at Synchro. So thank you for the kind words for everyone. Don is asking about the integration with IT Glue. So I'm curious to know if we plan to add any additional features with the IT Glue integration.
Yeah, we're always looking at ways to beef up our partner integrations. I can't speak to IT Glue specifically. We typically talk about work with new integrators or expanding functionality to existing partners based on feedback from users. So that's one that if we get enough feedback for, we'll take a look at. Right now, I can say it's currently not on the radar, but again, as Bill intimated earlier, we're kind of looking at quarters out at this point, so that doesn't eliminate it from 2022 by any means.
Perfect. And then Steve has a question here. So I know we touched on the timeline a little bit, but just about Splashtop. So TeamViewer license expiring at the end of the month. How long will we be without remote access?
Yeah, and Steve, I'm sorry, man. Like it's coming down to the wire for you specifically. I would say we probably will have it ready for you by that time, but I mean, it's software development, so I could miss that by a week, and I certainly don't want to leave your Mac assets without any way to remotely access them. That said, if you can wait, I would certainly think it'd be great to wait because I know how expensive that third-party remote access tool is. It'd certainly be great to get all that access for free. So yeah, it's going to be on or around. I just can't promise it's there by 12/31, unfortunately, but it'll be really, really close.
If you have to use a third-party tool, I'd say go for month to month rather than annual right now, right? Just with the timing on that. So
that's a good suggestion too. Yep.
Yeah. Karen says, when will there be the ability to set up recurring appointments on the calendar?
Yeah, so that's something else we're looking at. And I will say, I don't know if this would be there for 2022, but one of the big things that I'm looking at on my end is better dispatch, calendar, ticketing, all of that stuff, kind of how it goes together, where you can do ticket actions based on a calendar. You can see your other technicians' schedules based on a calendar. And I think that would probably be the time when we decide to tackle something like that we would hit this recurring appointment thing that you're talking about as well. But yeah, we are definitely aware of that one.
Steve just has a follow-up on the Bitdefender. He's curious if he'll be able to run scans inside of Synchro on his Mac devices. Currently, he's not able to do that, and you can do that inside of Synchro with Windows devices.
I'll have to take a look on that one. I don't know on that specifically. I mean, normally you would set your scan schedules in Bitdefender Gravity Zone. But I'll take a look to see if you're going to be able to trip it. It could be something with an API specific to Mac that I'm not aware of. I'll have to take a look and get back to you on that one.
Great. Aaron has a question, easier question from Aaron this time. So is Android app improvements on the roadmap?
I don't know if that's easier. So here's the reality, straight shooter coming right at you. I don't know. So one of the first three things I'm going to have this new UI team look at, we're going to have what's called a pivot or persevere moment with our native app versus responsive web design, meaning let's just make sure that the web UI works really, really well regardless of screen size. And that might be a better approach than like continuing to try to have a dedicated mobile team. I mean, we currently have 2 engineers who work on both Android and iOS, and that's it. And I don't have anybody on the product team dedicated to it. Andy, who's got like many hats, gives it a few minutes every now and then. So the real answer is, I don't know. And we're totally looking at, we understand mobile is an important part of the solution, but there are 2 different ways to approach it. And if we want to double down and go harder into making the mobile app itself better, we would have to invest differently. So the answer is, we're going to research it. It's on the radar. It's not super high on the priority list.
Yeah, and to take Aaron's question, he has to follow up about this. Is iOS the priority? To be honest, it is used a little bit more, but in reality, it's not a priority any more than Android is. When one thing gets deployed to one, it typically gets deployed to the other. That doesn't mean that a bug wouldn't exist with one that doesn't exist with the other, but we take all those. We want it to be in parity with each other. We're never going to say that iOS does X, Y, Z, and you're limited on Android kind of thing. But I will say that if we can nail the screen responsiveness thing down, I know a lot of people ask questions about the UI in general. One being, I've got this big giant monitor and I can't use it to its full effect. And I'll tell everybody that I have the 32:9 monitors all over my house. When I started using them, I cannot work without them now. And that's actually a personal pain point of mine. So I'm going to fight for that one in particular as often and as hard as I can, because I want to see that as well.
Andy's already sort of signaling his personal bias, but he brings up a good point. Philosophically, we want to deliver the most value to the most customers, right? So a responsive web design fixes lots of problems for PC users, different size monitors. You're on a very small laptop, you're on a giant screen, or you're on a mobile device, or you're on an iPad, or your Android tablet. That's why we really want to look at it hard. And I don't know what the decision will be, but it's definitely on the table. That's exactly why, because there's other advantages too.
Paco wants, he's adding a vote for a Syncro swag store, and he's commenting on your hat, Andy. So we always give him a hard time. He wears this hat every time we have a meeting just to rub it into the rest of us.
Well, I have good news. I think something might be coming. So stay tuned.
This one is
I've been here 4 months and I don't have anything, and it's very upsetting to me.
I know, I've been like having my own made. I've got my local embroidery place down the street. They like have our logo now, and I just go when I need something. But yeah, so Bill spilled the beans on that one too. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited.
That's what we're here for, man. You decided to join a webinar. You get me saying things. So you're welcome.
Yeah, Ron's making a comment about the mugs. So the mugs are pretty exclusive here at Synchro. We gave them out for we do some community events and the winners get the mugs. So a lot of the folks like to go in our Facebook group or community forums and flash them, because that's like some serious currency here. So that's still going to hold some currency, but there'll be a bunch of other stuff that you can get in the swag store for sure.
That like becomes a heated debate every time we bring up the mug, and everyone like posts a picture, and then everyone gets mad because they didn't get one. So you've got to enter those contests.
I need to make sure I'm drinking from it from now on, just to egg people on there a little bit. But
right?
I'll do that for next time. For next time.
I do see a question in here, and just friendly reminder, you guys, feel free to ask any questions. We've got our VP of product and our senior product manager here today. I don't think there's any questions you want to ask me, but if you have anything for them, feel free to pop those in. Jimmy has a question in here. So he makes the comment that last Fireside chat that payment processors were discussed, were being looked into for 2021. Is there an update on this?
Slightly. And hey, Jimmy's a longtime user. I like Jimmy quite a bit. Yeah, that's something that we attempted to tackle in 2021. It's something we're still investigating. I can't really go too into detail. Bill, if you want to add some detail there about that, but it's still on the docket as things that we're investigating, and we do understand the pains there.
Well, here's the a higher level answer that may not be satisfying, but indicates where we're headed. We're in the middle of finalizing our 2022 budget, and I'm trying to build out a much larger we only have a very small team that works on these integrations. So between me and the VP of engineering, Rajesh, we're making it a priority to build up that team, because there are lots of things we're not getting to with integrations into Xero or accounting packages, payment providers. Like we are in that area, and it may not be useful for everyone on this call, but we're also focusing on our VAT, improving our VAT tax calculations, because those don't always work right. There's like a small, really important set of things. I totally agreed with the comment I saw that collecting money is the most important thing. It's also one of the best parts of Synchro, and if that part isn't working, like a lot of the value of Synchro is not there. So it's a high priority for us, whether we're going to fix that particular issue versus accounting package integration, world pay problems, authorize.net, or other things. I couldn't say today, but I do want you to leave at least heartened to know generally that area is a focus for staffing and getting more done in 2022.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. We are running a bit low on questions. So final call out, if anybody's got any questions they want to ask to me or Bill about our personal experiences, my experience in the MSP space, questions about the future of Synchro, or things you want us to know about now, now's your chance.
I was going to say, while we're waiting for more questions to come in too, Andy, as someone who did have an MSP in the past, what would your favorite feature inside of Synchro? It could be new, it could be past. Like, what is your go-to? What do you like most?
My go-to is always, and I'll always revert.
I was going to say, does it have to do with money?
It does, yeah. It's always going to be to revert to that recurring, the recurring billing system. I say this, if I've ever had discussions with any of y'all personally, you'll know how in depth I'll get on this. As an MSP, you have one true asset, and that's your time. You can't sell add-ons, you can't sell hardware, you can't function if you're not first selling your time. And your time is finite, right? So it's like expired food. You don't use it at the end of the week, you have to toss it. Now you're trying to sell a new batch next week. So anything that your MSP platform can do to earn you more of your time is simply going to give you more time to go off and sell. So that increases your your labor revenue per technician. Your ultimate earnings potential can increase significantly if you can repurpose time you're spending on nonsense admin tasks into selling functions. And so that's what we always look at when we build anything. Like, that was the whole design of policy inheritance. Once you have this set up and configured and the way that you're going to bill it, it should save you so much time that you don't need to go off and hire another tech to buy another set of 40 hours a week. You can earn back that time in your existing techs and your own time as well, without having to bring on admins as well. So that's by far the number one feature we have that's going to save you the most time. So I would highly urge anybody who's not using that today to take a serious look at it, because once you have it set up, you'll wonder how you ever live without it.
Awesome. Andy always likes to talk about the money stuff. So
what else matters, right? Tech, whatever, money. That's all we care about.
Andy, your favorite question got asked. Brandon, you get an opportunity to talk about ticket boards.
Oh yeah, I just see that in here. So we'll go ahead and take that from Jimmy. So are there any plans to allow multiple queues in the ticket system that can be populated by email address? For example, network, desktop, VM, etc.
Yes, I'm glad someone asked that. And I did not prompt Jimmy to ask that. That was all Jimmy. So yeah, so we're calling it ticket boards internally. This is, again, I'm not at the place where I can say we're definitely doing this in 2022, but it's at the top of the list, no doubt. And it's also called ticket queues and other platforms. And the idea is that you'll be able to flow in tickets, and then based on whatever criteria, it could flow into a specific ticket view, ticket queue, ticket board, whatever you want to call it. Idea being that you'll have, in a larger MSP, you might have tier 1 techs that are basically triaging the simplest problems. And if it's very simple and they get it through, that's great. It'll never hit your tier 2 and your tier 3 techs, which are typically more expensive to staff. If it's something they can't handle, then it gets escalated to another board with a tier 2 techs list. And you can customize these boards in any way you want. Like, you may even want to have a VIP ticket board where your VIP customers just skip tier 1 support because they don't want to deal with the "did you reboot your computer" type questions. They're a little bit more qualified than that. So they'll skip right into like a tier 2 or tier 3 board. Or you could even segment those tickets so your techs won't see it. So everything you would expect to be there, we are looking at, and this is probably the top 3 things for me that I would love to see get delivered for 2022.
And just like some of the other questions, there's a lot of different ways we could implement that. We could do it with so I built ticket boards and I built ticketing systems. It's part of help desk. It's also part of my other background, which is Rally, application lifecycle management, Jira competitor. You can do it based on user with their role is their attributes and permission controls. You can do it with a workflow engine that's a little bit, it'll cost us a little more to make, but might be more flexible to do the things that I think I saw in that question around ticket types, which is what I did when I built a help desk product. Ticket types then could be anything. It could be based on category as well as customer, as well as, like Andy mentioned, you can have VIP flag on there as well. And that could put it into an expedite ticket queue. So there's a wide range of how much work we could do in that area and how we would approach it. So stay tuned for surveys and people asking you questions, because we'll definitely want to dig into that one. I think it's safe to say we'll invest in improving tickets next year for sure. I'll be a little more bold than Andy. I just don't know when. It might be more towards the back half of the year.
Yeah, Bill's my boss, so like I'll just throw out the idea, and if he's cool saying yeah, we'll do it, that's great. But I'm not gonna.
I never commit to anything, and there's no there's no slide up saying it, but probably it's very high on the list.
Awesome. So I know Bill touched on this earlier when we were talking about 2022. So Chad just says, any ideas for changes to Windows or third-party patching that you can share with us? A little nugget to get us excited.
Third-party patching?
Windows or third-party patching.
Well, I mean, OS patching is coming, right? So that's taking a manifest from Microsoft, all the KBs, and picking which ones you want to apply and doing that all by policy. So that what that'll look like exactly is almost defined. In terms of third-party patching, this is sort of, I was just saying this to someone else, this is sort of the holy grail of asks from customers in this space, because there are ways to kind of sort of do it via scripting and other things. But, you know, Chocolatey is our third-party tool. We use the same thing at my previous job. They don't really support an uninstall mechanism. You kind of have to look at it three ways. I want to know what's on the box. So that's more data reporting, like what can our agent tell you? What do they have installed? I want policies to block things from being installed I don't want, which is more of a deny list function. It's not uninstall. It's I'll just make sure they don't put things on there that I specifically don't want, whether that's a third-party application or a browser plugin. And there's the actually almost more important category. And then there's the, well, I've detected there's something there I don't want. Is there a way for me to actually physically uninstall it? We actually went the route of saying we're just going to stop it at the executable and they can't run it. By putting it on the deny list, you can actually do that. It's a pretty difficult problem to solve. Some people have some things that work sometimes, but if you don't do all three in tandem, they'll just reinstall it. And if you don't have the visibility or the observability to know it's there, you won't even know it's there. So we kind of have to solve all three. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know when or if we would tackle that in 2022. Beyond OS patching, we're definitely doing OS patching.
That's a nugget in itself, right? To take with you guys and get you excited today. Question from Clayton: are there any plans to continue to develop the chat feature?
What, Clayton? That thing is so full blown. I'm very curious for you to follow up. I want to know what we're missing there, but we're always looking for feedback to make it better. This was a standout feature for 2022. We released it. We kind of stopped everything in the middle of the pandemic when folks said, look, we're not sure what's going on. Like, people are now saying they have to work from home. We need live chat functionality. So this is not like the garbage thing that you'll see in a third-party remote access tool where it pops up a chat window and you can basically type in Notepad back and forth. This is like full chat archivals, sending it to assigning chats to text and all this different stuff. So yeah, whatever you think I can add there to make it better, I will 100% look at that. It's definitely going to continue to be a standout feature of Synchro.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead. We've got quite a few questions in here, so we'll keep powering through some of these. I like this question from Aaron. It's a little outside of Syncro, but it's to you, Andy. He just said, if you're still an MSP, if you were still an MSP today, what would you be worried about for 2022?
Well, I wouldn't be worried specifically, but having dealt with so many other MSPs for so long, I'd say the rapid change happening in the market and the industry, but more for your customers' businesses. Like COVID bombed everything, and no one really knows what's going to happen in the future and how it's going to go. And my main fear is that MSPs in general often have a hard time adjusting to rapid change. And to that, I would say, view everything as an opportunity. When I heard COVID hit, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, so I'll tread lightly here, but I kind of saw dollar signs in the space where you have a massive shift of people that now need to secure assets in a home environment. They still need remote access into their office. You could set up VPNs. There's a billion things that this just opened the door for. And some very, I'll call them elite MSPs that I'm still in contact with, made significant growth opportunities during the last year, during this year, because that's the types of things they're focused on. So my main fear is that MSPs will struggle with all the changes in the environment, when in reality, you can easily turn that into some serious opportunities.
It looks like we had a few people that had to hop off. So I know this webinar was just for an hour, and we appreciate all of you joining us today. For those of you who do need to hop off, that's absolutely okay. This recording will be made available after today's session, probably later this week, possibly Monday next week. But for those of you who want to stick around for a little bit, we'll go ahead and continue to fire away at some of these questions. Aaron has another one, just with the growth that has happened with the Synchro user base. Can you share any demographics about the growth? Is it small shop, big shop, in-house, corporate? Where are people coming from?
Yeah, I want to be a little, I'll let Bill chime in on this one too. I want to be a little careful with this because inevitably competitors always love to hop on these calls and see what we have to say. I will say that we're seeing equal growth across the board, which is great. Our primary focus is small to mid-size MSPs. That said, our pricing structure, where you can bring on a tech and get unlimited assets, obviously attracts MSPs of all sizes. And we are actually seeing universal growth across the board, which is all we could really ask for.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is when I signaled at the beginning, start, run, and grow your business, maybe it was implied, but we're still very, very MSP focused. We have some internal IT customers, but that's not our focus. Happy to have them, happy to listen to them, but that I just got out of that space. There's different needs over there. So I just want everybody, that's the one thing I would add is we get, like Andy said, it's correct across the board, small shops, bigger MSPs, almost mostly MSPs, not corporate and not internal IT. And I'm okay with competitors knowing that because we're focused. We're here for you.
That's right. Awesome. Aaron also has a question about, have you ever considered partnering with some of the MSP super users we have in the community to create best practices type of getting started videos?
Yeah, you're going to see a wide range of marketing activity around referrals and leveraging the community to help the community. That's part of the strategy of the community tools we stood up, is people helping each other solve their problems, because you guys know the tool as well as we do, and you can help each other. We want, if you have good references for us, we want that on Capterra, we want it on G2 Crowd, and yes, we want to have people on panels and webinars talking about their experience with Synchro and how they're being successful and how they're growing their business to help not just us with Synchro, but help the community grow their business. So I think the answer is yes, capital Y, lots of ways to engage and look forward to marketing, reaching out. You just put your hand up.
Great. Steve says, what do you feel is the best integration you have to a third-party virus software?
Well, we've got three. We've got WebRoot, Bitdefender, Gravity Zone, and MCSoft. I think in terms of functionality, they're probably all relatively the same. It's kind of like cars. Everybody's got their favorite, and if you had a bad experience with one, that sucks for life for you, and another one is great, and that's the way it goes. I would say that probably Bitdefender allows you to do the most in terms of not necessarily with the integration with Synchro, but they offer a whole litany of additional services that you can buy into and deploy that could still get billed, under one roof through Syncro. So in terms of like growing with the product, I'd probably put that ahead of the rest, but I would really play with all three and make a decision because they all do different things really well. And they all struggle with other areas of things. So it really is what suits your MSP and not necessarily what we went deepest with or what's viewed as the best per se.
Great. Steve has a question in here. Windows 11, any challenges with Synchro clients or our scripts?
Actually, no. We did a lot of testing with Windows 11. Obviously, you have to do the same thing with Mac when they roll out new OSs, and we really haven't hit anything Windows 11 related, which I don't want to say is surprising because we did a ton of testing, but you always expect to see something, and we literally saw nothing. So no, if you're holding for any reason to update your clients, you're safe to do it from our perspective, anyways.
Chad was commenting on the CyberDrain partnership and just said, thank you for that. It's good to keep the community scripts alive and growing, and it's a good learning opportunity to learn some new scripting best practices. So I know that was an exciting addition that we had.
Yeah, sorry, Brandy, really quick on that. For
Go ahead.
folks that don't know, a couple months ago, we entered into a partnership with CyberDrain where every single month they will give us 3 scripts to add to our community library from their blog, and then they will custom write 2 scripts for us as well. So we do these community events every month where you can submit your favorite scripting idea. We pick 2 of our favorites, and then we'll send it off to CyberDrain, who writes them and adds them to our community library. And then that also happens to be a way that winners get mugs. Hint, hint. So if you really want some hard Synchro currency, start submitting your script ideas.
Yes, don't be stealing other people's ideas. I always see that. Don't share it until the competition comes up. Cal says, are you ever going to have knock services?
I don't want to say never say never. I don't know if it's going to be like something that we're offering as a service sold from Syncro. I will say that there is integrations that we do have today and we are looking at in the future with knock services, so they can easily get into the system and triage your T1 tickets or whatever you're having them look at. Bill, do you want to add anything there?
It's come up since I've been here. It's on the list. It's further down the list. So my gut says probably nothing more in 2022. But like Andy said, that's not a never. And it's certainly not a we won't integrate with someone if it comes up and it's meaningful. It's also, it's sporadically requested. So when I look at the ideas, like it comes up, but like a few times, not a lot, and the use cases are a little different too, depending on who you talk to. So yeah, that would be what I would add. I don't want to get your hopes up on that one.
Awesome. Question in here from Aaron. Any plans for a retired status, either in customer or asset?
Yeah, we actually do have an archived, which would also be retired for customers. For assets, we don't, and this is something that I'm actually going to work directly with y'all because this is something that I'm going to try to get into 2022, and it's basically the notion of retiring an asset but maintaining its history and its data, so to speak. So instead of having a live asset, it would almost count as an uninstall, and the concept now, and it may change when I talk to y'all, is basically turning it into a custom asset where it's just data fields that you're seeing. And that's the same link that you'd see everywhere throughout the platform for old tickets and customer records and things like that. So it basically turns it into like what I would call asset tracking only, where it's not a live asset on the system. You can't run scripts and things of that nature, but it would allow you to archive an asset in a way that makes a little bit more sense than how we handle it today. So definitely something on my radar.
Let me ask a follow-up. So the only reason, and we did this, I've done this before, it was really only for audit reasons, because once you've amortized it off the books and it's retired, there's a difference between inactive and I've actually, the asset will no longer be put back into the fleet. What are the use cases you've heard, Andy? Is it just around audit needs, or are there other reasons to have that data laying around?
No, like as an example, if I have an asset go down and I have to replace it, I'm going to go ahead and retire it, merge the data into the new asset, and the history links together, stuff like that. That'd be one example. Another would be if like a customer buys out a company and they're trying to get older data, but you don't want to keep these assets live. Like it's almost like they're constantly offline kind of thing. It's just a better way to manage it where they don't have to show up in your list of assets anymore.
Makes sense.
All right, it looks like we've got 2 more questions in here. So Matthew's asking any plans on adding more ways to customize Notification Center. We want to consolidate our communication on tickets to inside Synchro, but we find the notification slide out to be very text dense.
I would say, well, to answer your question specifically, yes, that's another thing on my radar. I don't know if it makes it in for 2022 or not. I would definitely like to make Notification Center more of a if this then that style, where it's like, if it's from this customer and it comes in with this priority, go ahead and send an alert where something else, more low priority won't. I would also say that some of that functionality is going to come with ticket boards, because that's part of the nature of notifying text on a ticket board. That said, I would say that there probably is, Matthew, ways to do this today. I mean, you could have Notification Center do whatever you want. If you want to have it ping, a Slack channel, if you want to have it text you or email you, or like you're talking, use the internal alerting system. There's plenty of ways to do it. So I talk to you sometimes on Facebook, I know. So if you just want to send me a note directly and we can hash that out in more detail, I'm pretty sure you might be able to get what you want already today.
Great. And the last one we have in here is from Chad. So is the customer portal going to be part of the UI development as well?
Yes, it would be. And we'd probably be looking at a little bit more customization there in terms of what you see and how you display it. And I totally understand it. As an MSP, I always heavily valued putting my face forward, my company's brand forward and stuff like that. And that would certainly extend into the customer portal. I would say that probably wouldn't be first on the list of things we want to tackle with the UI. We really want to focus on the internal stuff that you all use every day and make sure that that's, I'll say, exponentially easier to navigate around and get to places you need to get to quicker. Again, any minute we can shave off there is another minute you can go off and sell. And the other question Chad's asking is simple CSAT built in. That is something else that we're looking at in 2020. I won't say for 2022 rather, but it is something else that's on the radar that we're taking a look at for sure.
Great. Well, what an awesome session today. It is morning for some, afternoon for others. It might be Thursday for some of you too. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you'll make it to the next one. We do, just friendly reminder, we do have a new community forum. We can make sure that that's linked as well with this recording so that you guys can join us over there. That's where we'll be shifting gears to. We do open office hours every Friday as well. If you guys do want to pop in for questions, let us know if you have any follow-up questions from today's session. But again, thanks for joining us. And thank you so much, Andy and Bill.
Thanks, everybody.
And Aaron gives us a plug, says, if you're new here, come on Fridays. Continued education. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.